one of my favorite events because you get to see so many people that I don't really get to see very often coming together. You know what I'm saying? You get to see a lot of new fans that come out from different parts of the state. And it's really, I feel like it's going to evolve at some point to being some kind of weekend celebration of Texas wrestling, Texas independent wrestling. I think we're slowly making those steps to be that. But yeah, I mean, that was initially the idea, you know, and I've probably worked with almost every single wrestling promotion here in the state in some ways. So yeah, man, it's really cool. Like I said, it's one of my favorite events of the year, and I love it. And I think we need more promotions working together, putting together their, you know, whether it's a social media, fan base, whatever the case may be, to get these guys elevated to the next level. And that's really my goal as a promoter, as a booker, is to help, you know, open those doors and get those guys to where they want to get to.
So with us today on the PGTK podcast today, the first time we did it, we were online.
Yeah.
The episode went great. Don't get me wrong. The episode was just, it worked out great despite the tech issues. And we had a nice episode about that. And
Yes.
of course, he's the head booker, promoter, head honcho. We'll throw in Master Chief in the mix with New Texas Pro Wrestling. We have Kiefer Bartek on the episode. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me out. It's been a busy morning, but I'm excited to be here. You know?
There you go. There you go. So we're going to talk about the Indie Showcase, and tell us about how that came about with the very first Indie Showcase.
Yeah, man. You know, I came up as a wrestler, and to see the scene how it was, where not a lot of promotions were working together at all. You know, sometimes you'd have a little bit here and there, but for the most part, you know, most promotions stick to themselves or even create some kind of division between, you know, the territory or the scene. You know what I'm saying? And I'm really the other opposite way, that I think that the best way that us promoters can help these wrestlers out to get to that next level is for us to work together. And I think that if we work together and we, you know, use, you know, all of our resources that we can, even if it's for one night of a year, that we can, you know, put on these, you know, showcase events, and that, you know, fans from this part of the state and fans from this part of the state will all come together, and then they'll see, oh, there's some wrestlers here from Dallas I've never seen before. There's some wrestlers here from Austin I've never seen before. There's wrestlers from Laredo, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, it was an idea that I had a few years back. I didn't know how it would go. But it's been, you know, one of my favorite events because you get to see so many people that I don't really get to see very often coming together. You know what I'm saying? You get to see a lot of new fans that come out from different parts of the state. And it's really, I feel like it's going to evolve at some point to being some kind of weekend celebration of Texas wrestling, Texas independent wrestling.
Right.
I think we're slowly making those steps to be that. But yeah, I mean, that was initially the idea, you know, and I've probably worked with almost every single wrestling promotion here in the state in some ways. So yeah, man, it's really cool. Like I said, it's one of my favorite events of the year, and I love it. And I think we need more promotions working together, more promotions putting together their, you know, whether it's a social media, fan base, whatever the case may be, to get these guys elevated to the next level, man. That's really my goal as a promoter, as a booker, is to help, you know, open those doors and get those guys to where they want to get to.
And I'm curious, do you remember the card for the very first Indie Showcase?
I do remember the main event was Brian Keith versus Davey Richards. The bounty hunter.
No.
It was actually Brian Keith's very first New Texas Pro Championship defense.
Oh, okay.
And he had an incredible reign. I think I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's the greatest championship reign in recent Texas wrestling history. Probably within, you know, the last decade, maybe even 2 decades. I think that championship reign was probably the best that we've ever had here in Texas. And started off with, you know, main eventing the first ever Texas Indie Showcase against the legend of Davey Richards. I mean, somebody that when he first stepped into a wrestling ring, Davey Richards was there with him at Texas All-Star in like 2009 or 2010, like doing some seminar. First time, Brian, and it came full circle. Yes, and it came full circle at that Texas Indie Showcase one. There was a lot of good matches on the card. A lot of great promotions from around the state that came together.
Do you remember like which promotions joined in? on that first indie showcase?
Inspire was there.
Okay.
Gulf Coast Wrestling, which now the people that I was working with at Gulf Coast are now with the Texas Wrestling Cartel. They were there in that first showcase. IHWE was there. Wrestling Revolution from McAllen. I feel like I'm going to be missing some promotions, but there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of good promotions on that show. I think LWA, Laredo Wrestling Alliance, was on that show as well. I think Old School Wrestling in Odessa was on that show. So that was very like, hey, we got a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and everything like that. And yeah, it was a really, really cool how everyone came together. That was at the Houston Premier Arena. And the main event was incredible. That's what I remember from that show.
Nice. And I'm sure as the Indie Showcase started to grow, what were some growing pains or what were some lessons that you've learned over the course of how many shows with the Indie Showcase?
You know, I've actually sort of been. I feel like for such a big dream, a big idea of bringing all these promotions together, bringing all these promoters together, bringing these wrestlers together that I don't necessarily work with all the time, that there would be more problems. But I really try to communicate and listen to what the promoters want or the bookers or the wrestlers or what they need from their matches and things like that. And, you know, it's been pretty, I don't want to jinx myself or anything in the future, but
there's wood right there. You can knock on that.
It's actually been pretty, there hasn't been a lot of problems. It has not been problematic for me. I think just because I really want it to be something that's good for everybody involved. I really want to listen and make sure that everyone's heard and everyone gets an opportunity to shine, as I do with my own shows. So, yeah, I haven't had a ton of growing pains. You know, I think that I have an idea and a vision for what I want it to be, and maybe sometimes I want it to be, you know, like I said, a weekend event, a celebration, maybe, you know, get a lot of fans from around the state to come and, you know, maybe it's some hotel or something like that, or maybe on the beach in South Padre Island, you know, so.
That's the dream. To have South Padre as that would be a dream right there.
And, you know, just, hey, everyone set their vacation weekends on this weekend and we're doing, you know, we'll have a few shows from different promotions and then at the end we'll have the Texas Indie Showcase 5. I think that's where I want it to be. I'd say that's probably more of my, where I'd say I have issues or whatever, but, you know, I think we'll get there one day. I'm very, I'm sure we'll get to that point where we all get to hang out on the beach and then go to a wrestling show later on in the day.
And and I was thinking about this too, as the shows started to grow bigger, what is it that you observe as the show starting to get bigger? The fan base is getting bigger. What were some observations that you saw as each of those indie showcases came about?
I think it's just really, you know, last year I think we did the first show at the Campbell Hall, or the first time we were at the Campbell Hall for the indie showcase. I honestly enjoy getting an opportunity to see a lot of the guys who are working hard around the state in person, in front of our fans. And then, you know, an observation I see is we get a lot of those fans from around the state who want to come out and check out not just their own brand or their own promotion that they usually watch on a monthly basis, but they get to see the wrestlers from other parts of the states as well. And, you know, I also become a fan in that sense of, like, I enjoy to see, my observations from these shows is you hear and you see things on social media about these guys who are grinding on you know, at their home promotions or promotions that are close to them. But, you know, sometimes they don't really get an opportunity to get out and network in front of other promoters and other fans and stuff like that. So to see them get an opportunity to work in front of new promoters and new fans and to see how they do in front of a new crowd, that's really my favorite thing about the showcase, and that's what I really observe and try to pay attention to, because it is really cool to see them in person, to see them do their thing, you know?
Yeah, and I noticed that the venues have gotten bigger.
Yeah. What
were some logistics that you kind of faced as each show goes along, and the need for a bigger venue? When did it happen when you say, oh crap, this is a big venue, like I need to go somewhere bigger?
Well, we were running, you know, decent sized venues before the pandemic, but mainly out in West Texas. The the reason that we went to the Houston Premier Arena in the first place is because of the pandemic, and there wasn't a lot of places to run, and a lot of our talent was already down here in Houston, so it made a lot of logistical sense to just get out to the Houston Premier Arena, continue the momentum that we already had built for ourselves before the pandemic, and to have something where a lot of the guys don't have to travel too far to be able to do these shows. And, early 2021 is when we first started running in the Premier Arena. But that was, the Premier Arena was almost like as far as for the new Texas Pro shows, it was really just a stopgap to try to get into something bigger. Now, I don't know if I foresaw that we would have grown so big into the Houston market as quickly as we did, if that makes sense. So there was some point in 2021, after we'd run there, that I was like, we have to find a bigger location. When the restrictions of the pandemic lighten up, I know that we've outgrown this place already, and we need to find something bigger that, fits into what we can do for a budget for an independent wrestling show. So that was already, it never was our plan to stay at the Houston Premier Arena. It really was a great venue for us to use during those restrictions of the pandemic, that we were continue our momentum. And during that time, a lot of the guys, Brian Keith, Mysterious Q, Roxy, those really were not a lot of promotions were able to run, or they didn't have the facility that the Houston Premier Arena to run in because of everything. It was a really big time for them to showcase themselves on a national scale because there wasn't as many shows going on. So, and moving down here to Houston and doing everything with the Houston Premier Arena and the Houston Wrestling Academy, the team continues to grow, and the Campbell Hall is a great venue, but one day I hope we can get even to a bigger venue, or something like that. And so, you're always I'm always trying to see what we can do to improve and to grow. And now we ran in pinballs. It was a great show at pinballs. We've got we should be returning back there in September.
Okay, nice.
So there should be other locations around the state of Texas that we'll start to get into a little bit and run a couple shows there a year. Buda being one of them, San Angelo being another one that we're running in August. So it was great to be here in Houston during the pandemic, but we want to be a full encompassing Texas promotion. So our goal was always it was great to be in Houston Premier Arena for the time being, but ultimately we're getting back to what we were going to be doing before the pandemic, which is really starting to get into different markets and trying to become, like I said, a full encompassing Texas wrestling promotion.
Interesting. And we're going to talk about the current card, and we're going to talk about the recent promotions. We have Inspire.
Yep.
Inspire. We have you guys. We're going to talk about that match later on. We'll get to that. We have Inspire. We have United 210.
Yep.
We have MPX, and among others. And I do remember some of those off the top of my head. How has the need for collaboration been a factor coming? We talked about it earlier in the conversation. Like, what makes collaboration such an important part in a show like the Indie Showcase?
I think it just helps build excitement towards the show itself. But again, if we work together, Houston Hendricks has been here on the Texas Contender Series for the last couple of shows. Him and Dustin have been feuding. And, we do have the Texas Contender Series, which we do get to see a lot of people, but there's not a lot of opportunity for crossovers between promotions too much in that sense. And so it's really great to work with someone like Inspire, and we get some great, some of the great students from AAPW or just the Austin scene in general to come out to do New Texas or to be part of the shows. Now we're doing Inspire versus New Texas at the Texas Indie Showcase, but we also get to send, New Texas guys out that way as well. So it just opens doors for guys when we start to work together and we collaborate and we start to build these guys up, not just in our local markets, but also, statewide, that people get this, get their eyes on these guys and say, hey, look, this isn't just an Austin guy. This person's, he's coming over here to Houston, he's going down to Corpus, he's going up to Dallas and stuff like that. So I can't even stress enough how important collaborating and working with other promotions is, not just for the expanding networking that you get for your own promotion, but just for the wrestlers. Like, the wrestlers get an opportunity to work with new people. The wrestlers get to wrestle in front of new people. So again, anytime, Inspire is the promotion we've collaborated with the most. I think we've done a really good job building towards this feud that we're going to have, wherever this feud goes between New Texas and Inspire. But ultimately, I'm always game for more collaborations and more working together. And I think anything that could benefit the wrestlers and benefit the fans, I'm 100% for.
And it's interesting because United 210 is a fairly new, it's a startup promotion. How has someone who is trying to get into the wrestling scene like a United 210, where they're still trying to build that, how has that helped not only for them, but for you guys in the Indie Showcase?
So, United 210, I knew Stash almost when he first started in the wrestling business.
Okay.
And I've known Rob for a long time. We used to team together at Heavy Metal Wrestling in San Antonio. So I know, and Teflon John, everyone that helps with that show, there's a lot of guys that I know very well that I've worked with, at Heavy Metal and other places as well. And I know how much they care about wrestling. I know how much they want to try to do something good for their community and to do something good for that Texas wrestling scene and the San Antonio scene. So for me to extend that invitation and then for them to be excited to be a part of the Texas Indie Showcase, it's really cool. I really care about building up the Texas wrestling scene in general. So like I said, I know that they care. I know that they really love professional wrestling. So I want to try to do things, work with them and help them out and help them grow and help get more eyes onto them. They're already doing a great job of that as well. But if I can get, a few more eyes on their promotion, a few of our fans follow their promotion on Instagram or Twitter, or they need to get a Twitter, but Facebook, whatever the case may be. I feel like, that could help them out in the long run, you know what I'm saying? And that's really what's important to me. Like I said, if I see promotions who are legitimately trying to do good things for the wrestling scene, the Texas wrestling scene, then I want to work with them, and I want to try to, help them on my platform as well. For United 210, Casey Blackrose is making his new Texas debut at our show. I know he's been grinding on the San Antonio scene and other places around the state as well for a good amount of time. So it's great to have him. He's a shining example of a guy that I don't know if I've seen him in person. But this version of Casey Blackrose, I don't know if I've seen him in person. So I'm excited to see him and Rob do their thing at the showcase. And like I said, I know how much passion and love they have for the business. So for me, I'd like to do anything I can to help them out as well.
And it just brings more exposure to all of the newer promotions, because like Inspire has been there for a long time, and they've built their reputation through exposure and working with you guys, and turning to your promotion with New Texas. And a lot of the students have been grinding on their side of the pond, and coming to the Indie Showcase with a lot of your students who are going to be highlighted. What's that feeling like, watching them go to where they're going in the industry?
I think from seeing these guys from almost day one to where they are now, it's incredible. I feel like they have grown tremendously as wrestlers and as people in general. So to see them get opportunities in the business this quickly, or as soon as they have, I feel gratitude. I just feel so like it's hard to put the feeling into words of how I feel for them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's incredible. It's amazing. I wish I could, I say this like I'm not trying, like I'm not doing enough, but I feel like I wish I could do more for them. You know what I'm saying?
You do what you could. That's what it is.
And so it's really incredible to see them grow and to see them get opportunities on not just the showcase. We've always been building for them with the Texas Contender Series, and the plan was always for them to get on these new Texas shows, but ultimately to see them on all these promotions around the state, to see them get opportunities on multiple promotions around the state, in the same weekend. I'm like, well, where are you guys at this weekend? Where are you guys at this weekend? It's a great feeling. We can give them all the advice in the world, myself and JJ and Bulldog and Diego and Steven and all the other people that have a helping hand there at the Wrestling Academy. But ultimately they still have to go out and hustle and grind and get theirs, and they all do hustle and grind and go out there and get theirs, and you see the tweets about the guys being on the road, for the people to notice that these guys are out there grinding on the road and being in the cars and stuff like that. That's great to see. We try to instill that hustle mentality into the guys to know that nobody's going to get this for you. I can build New Texas Pro to be the best promotion in Texas, or one of the best, most heralded promotions in the United States, but ultimately they still have to go out there and get it themselves. So to see them to grow and to progress the way that, even at a faster pace than I've expected, and the others have expected, is incredible to see. But I know that they're hungry, and I know that they want more, and this is only the beginning for them. So,
and it's interesting, and they're going to be part against Inspire. Now, I want to hear your side of the story. And that ladder match did not, I wouldn't say it pan out, but to have that feud start at Battle Wars.
Yes.
Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
And tell us what you're going through with that ladder match. And we're going to talk about the match as well within the show. But we'll go with that on a later note.
Well, I mean, let's take it back further. Let's just take it back further.
All the way? All right, okay.
Let's take it back further. So when I got into this business, and I was looking at promotions around the state of Texas that I wanted to be on, Inspire Pro at the time, Inspire AD now, was at the very top of that list.
Okay.
So I went there. I couldn't 5 or 6 times to help out, set up chairs, help tear down the ring. I did it because I wanted to be there. And this is, as a wrestler, we've all been through that situation where we go places, we want to help, we want to try to get on these shows. Eventually I was able to get onto the shows.
Okay.
Eventually I was able to, win the Inspire AD Blue Twin Dragon Championship. So, ultimately I had a pretty successful time there at Inspire, during those few years that I was there. So when I was discussing with Biss about the idea of this Battle Wars show, New Texas versus Inspire AD, I knew that I had to send a message from the beginning, because this is one of those promotions that I had seen from day one that I was like, hey, this is where I want to be. And here I am. I've built this wrestling promotion, New Texas Pro Wrestling, that is, seen as a parallel now with Inspire AD. So I knew when it was actually the show back in January that, we announced this in front of the crowd there in Austin, Texas. Well, I knew I had to send a message, and I had to let the people of Austin know that we're for real. So I, took Biss's head off with that lariat. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember seeing that, and I'm like, dear, what just happened? I saw that on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be an interesting feud.
I knew it, like I said, and you can call it payback for everything, but, ultimately I knew it was a place that I wanted to be at. I knew that when we were discussing this, that I knew I had to send a message out the gate. Ultimately, however it was done, whether it was the inner fighting, however we won the ladder match, whether that's, they want to say it was Brick and Dimitri and all them couldn't get along. Well, that's, but at the end of the day, we walked away with the flag, the Texas flag. We walked away with the bragging rights to be, crowned as the top promotion in the state of Texas.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, now you were there, Buddha, correct?
Yeah.
And, Biss said he's going to send some guys his way, and it seems like he's sent a lot of young blood our way to try to take back this crown. But, we have a really good team as well, with Dustin Wynn, Max Heights, Diego De La Cruz, our Lone Star champion, and announced this past Thursday at the Contender Series, the Rottweiler Jay Davis is the 4th man on New Texas Pro Wrestling Team New Texas. So, I don't know if it's been announced yet, but, Ethan Hunter did help Houston Hendricks this past Thursday.
That's developing. So that's going to be a developing thing.
So I don't know if Biss has announced it. I don't know if 100% Ethan Hunter is that 4th man on Inspire AD, but, Epidemius Jr., Kari J. Wright, Houston Hendricks has been announced for the team. So, if Ethan Hunter is that 4th man, it's going to be an interesting. This is a lot of young blood. Max Heights and Diego De La Cruz have kind of been on our team, been a part of New Texas. Max from the beginning, Diego for the last few years. But, Dustin and Jay are new guys, new blood that we've had here in New Texas. And it's going to be interesting. We'll see how things go. I'm really excited about it. I'm very confident in my team. I think we have a lot of heavy hitters on our team. And I think we, I'm not saying it might be a clean sweep, but whatever it is, next Sunday or, June 23rd. We'll see how it goes. That's all I'm saying.
It's interesting because like now we're seeing a lot of with Inspire and with New Texas and all these promotions. And from your perspective, looking back, and when you see that same person in the first indie showcase, and when you look at all the hard work, like what would you describe that?
As far as like just Inspire itself, or
just the entire indie showcase, and it's just a moment of reflection on the amount of work that you've done to make it happen from the start.
I would say I tell people who inquire about being a promoter that it's I wouldn't recommend it because it is a thankless job and you lose a lot of money doing it. But ultimately, I feel like being able to do these events, it's just really like I don't know if was ever anything like this before. I'm sure there has been 2 or 3 promotions working together at times, but never 8, 9, 10 promotions coming together for one night of pro wrestling. So it feels almost like, yes, there's a lot of work that gets put into all of this. I'm constantly, it's a constant thing. I don't know if there's ever, more than 15 minutes that I'm not thinking about something with wrestling, or like, oh, I need to take care of this. I need to do this. I need to take care of this. I need to do that. I'm always constantly thinking about what we can do to improve, what we can do, what I need to take care of before this upcoming show. So it's a constant grind as far as that's concerned. I'm constantly working. I'm on the clock 24/7 is what I always say. But despite all of that, to be a part of something special like the Texas Indie Showcase, to put it together, to see these people come together for one night, to get to see a lot of faces that I don't get to see a ton under one roof, it's really cool. It feels, it's very rewarding to do something like this. So yeah, it's cool to see how far it's grown. It's cool to see how the Texas scene has evolved these last 4 years. But ultimately, we still got a lot of work to do. So
and it's always a work in progress. And I'm gonna go a layer deeper.
Yep.
And I always end our conversation with this. And the World Health Organization labels adolescents between the ages of 10 and 19. Yep. Now, between those age ranges, people do tend to pick things up within those age ranges. I usually give the age, and the funny thing is, I was watching the first season of the podcast. I threw the same number every single time.
Yeah.
But you have the floor, and picture this: you're in the same room as a young Kiefer Bartek at age blank. What advice would you give to him, or what would you like to talk about?
I mean, I'm not sure if he would listen to me even if I talked to him.
I can say it again. I don't know, but
I would say because, wrestling was something that I always loved from day one. I think it's almost, to be a poor kid that grew up in Abilene, Texas, to now running one of the most successful independent wrestling promotions in Texas. I don't know if I would even have believed it, because it seems like something that wouldn't even really be possible, like a pipe dream. I didn't even get into wrestling until I was 24 because I didn't think I really had an opportunity to make it to even wrestle. Like, I think I'd go to a school and like, oh, he's not gonna be able to wrestle a match. Look at the guy. I know it's weird to say, but
right.
We all struggle with our own internal, dialogue and whatever the case may be. So, man, I think, when I was like 10 and 19, I was playing sports all the time. I was in all the advanced classes growing up. There's a lot of, I could probably take this a ton of different ways, but I think by the time I was a senior in high school, taking all the AP courses, playing basketball on varsity, I was just completely burned out. But I had felt that growing pressure that I needed to go to college because, I'm an AP student. I've already had college.
It's like expectations were drawn already when that.
I already had credits to my name because I'd already passed the AP test at the end of the year. And, I think it was that pressure of just, this is what you need to do. This is what you should do. I wish I had been able to go to college without that pressure onto myself, if that makes sense.
Right.
because I really, by the time my first semester in college was at San Angelo, Angelo State University, which we're going back to San Angelo.
Oh, okay.
This is kind
Full
of a
circle.
cool full circle thing, right? Which is why I'm kind of excited to go back there, because I only spent one semester there, because again, I was so burned out by the time I went there. I had realized that first semester that I didn't want to be in college at that point,
Right.
because it just wasn't what I wanted to do, So I think there's a lot that goes into it. Or me talking to my younger self, I'd say a lot of it. It's kind of I'm kind of figuring this out now. Is kind of enjoy the process.
Okay.
I was
Good.
constantly. I mean, even in my 20s, I'm just constantly. I'm looking forward to this. If I get to this, then my life, will be good, or whatever the case may be. But ultimately, you have to enjoy that journey along the way.
There you go.
So try to, enjoy this process to get where you want to get to. In one sense, I'm telling myself, like, you're putting too much pressure on yourself, or you're burning yourself out by doing all this stuff. And then in another sense, maybe this is probably my 20s, but don't sit there and procrastinate and say, I can do this tomorrow, because, you only have a certain amount of time in this life. So if you have a problem, try to address it. If you can't address it, then,
There you go.
you can't address it. So, I'm trying to think of what else I'd have a conversation with them, because I just feel like I've grown, like I'm like lived 3 different lifetimes, even in my adult life, since I was a kid. Trying to think. I think that that really would be it. Just don't put as much pressure onto yourself that you have to live up to these expectations that you feel like you need to, because you're a gifted kid, or whatever the case may be, that you were labeled from the age of whatever, 5 or 6, and just find your own way in life, and try to just try to take care of things. I started paying rent and living on my own at 18.
Wow.
Which a lot of people, like, my dad was like, I did it when I was, when I turned 18, my dad kicked me out. So I'm doing the same for you to help you learn. And so 2007, when I had to live on my own when I was 18, was a lot different than whatever 1970 or whatever my dad, because that was right when the recession was happening.
Oh, dear. That's right. That was.
So the times were a little bit different than when my dad was doing it. But I learned a lot of life lessons at that point in time too, just having to be on my own and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think that it was definitely interesting. I probably would not do that to my kids. So
Right. Just going through it. It's
just like, hey, I'm paying bills at 18. And like, there's also, you didn't have credit at your name when you're 18 in 2007.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has dealt with that, but they
Yeah.
probably had like guiding hands to like help them, like, all right, well, this is what you do. This is what I didn't have that. I just kind of was like, oh, whatever. I'm figured out along the way.
Throwing a frying pan, basically.
Legitimately, yeah. So, I guess maybe for that time, I mean, I would probably say it's okay to, it's okay to go back home. My parents are split, so I live with my dad most of my childhood. But, I live with my mom a little bit, maybe in my early 20s or whatever the case may be. So, it was okay to go back home for a while and get your finances in order and get your life in order and stuff like that too. So that's actually what I did right before I got into wrestling, and it helped out a ton, just because, living on your own at 18, working a job, getting paid like $7.75 an hour was a really tough thing to do. So
Yeah. But it's a learning experience.
It is.
Basically just learning things on the fly. But once you got through it, it's easier when those moments come.
For sure. I'd say a lot of wrestlers that I've dealt with over my time really weren't prepared for like life experience stuff, like struggling to pay the bills and trying to decide if I need to pay this or pay that right at this moment kind of thing, because I only have, this amount of money kind of thing. So a lot of wrestlers and just people in general kind of struggle with that if they've lived at home and they've had that, they've had a lot of help along the ways and stuff, and good guiding hands. But ultimately, I was thrown in the frying pan from 18. So by the time I had moved out here to Houston, I had already, this or that, or what do we, I've got to prep everything out for dinner for the whole, for meals for the whole week and everything like that. So I had already been prepared for that part of my life. So that was a good thing, I guess, from all of that tumultuous part of my life that I had to deal with. So
Awesome. But thank you so much for having you on. And in person, which is the
it just seems
blows
like
my mind.
It's a lot better quality than my internet feed that was just scraggly.
But I do want to give a shout out to Sacred Stone Studios for providing with the spot for the recording and for being so gracious to provide us with their services for the episode of the podcast with them. So if you have any podcasting needs here in the Houston metro area, Sacred Stone Studios is a very good place to go to. And before I end the conversation, I wanted to show this to you.
Okay.
So remember the story when we had the shirt? I want to return this to you, partly because this is a memento for your only win, for one of your wins in Austin. So I would like to personally hand this to you.
I have to try to put this on now, right?
You're on the spot now. So I wanted to return that to you, but if you want to change that.
Casey Kareem handed me, I don't know if this served the painting. Casey Kareem handed me this in the middle of the ring, expecting me to put this on, and here I am. Look at this.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to put this on.
Let's see if it fits. Let's see if it fits.
Maybe because I've lost a little bit of weight.
The transformation is working if that shirt fits you. There you go.
Now
So I wanted to hand that back to you because, and it's a win for you to get that. So look at you, look ripped. You look ripped. So I wanted to
since the start of the year.
After I recorded, I was like, I don't want to keep this to myself, and part of it was just like, this is a reminder of one of your wins in Inspire. So I wanted to hand that over to you. So
now I have this memento. I've been telling this story because I think it's got to be the funniest thing that's ever happened to me.
I caught that too. It was an interception. I was like, because Roxy was there, and you threw it, and they were like, "Here it is, get that out." So, but otherwise, you have the floor. Yeah. Pitch us the Indie Showcase to not only on the Houston crowd, and also to the bigger Texas wrestling space.
The Texas Indie Showcase 4. I mean, we have just an incredible stacked lineup from top to bottom. I think you have to start off with Kylie Rae returning to Texas for the first time in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
2 or 3 years, I think it's been. Maybe, I don't know. I have a bad memory.
Time flies. That's what.
Kylie Rae, Smiley Kylie Rae is back here in Houston, of all places, a place she called home for a few years.
Okay.
And she's wrestling Danny B, the new Texas Pro Women's Champion, someone who's had an incredible run this year. New Texas Inspire, NWA, Mission Pro. I mean, her and Charity have been absolutely tearing it up. But she's been an incredible women's champion, and I'm so looking forward to that match between Danny B and Kylie Rae, because two hardworking, driven individuals who want they both strive for perfection, and they want to be the best version. Like, it's weird, they're not exactly the same, but they're identical in that capacity, that they're very hardworking, they're very driven individuals.
Right.
And get to see them square off is going to be incredible. I'm very excited about that match. Again, Kylie Rae is back here in Houston. She's wrestling Danny B, one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champions, one half of the Mission Pro Women's Tag Team Champions, and the new Texas Pro Women's Champion. So that match is going to be a show stealer, undoubtedly one of maybe even a match of the year candidate. I'm legitimately saying that it could potentially be that.
That's a bull claim. Go ahead.
No, I'm telling you, those two are incredible wrestlers, not just women's wrestlers. Those two are incredible wrestlers, and they're both very. It's going to be a great matchup. I already know it's going to be a great matchup.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. We have a fatal 4-way for Baracho Pro.
Yeah.
Which, they've had some, made a lot of noise this past week with everything going on. So
it's loud enough on Sunday, but this will be louder.
So the Fatal 4-Way, Exodus Prime, one of Dallas's greatest wrestlers right now, if not the best, in my opinion. Shimbashi.
Yep.
You can't deny Danny O'Ryan.
Yep.
And I haven't put this out yet. It's breaking news here, but by the time this gets out, it's probably not breaking news. But El Enviado will not be able to make it, so taking his place will be Little Evil.
What? Okay.
So I think the match stakes and everything just got a little higher with Little Evil being involved with it.
Yep.
One of Austin's best, if not Austin's best wrestler at this point in time, and so that's going to be an incredible Fatal 4-Way.
That's going to be interesting.
Super talent. talented individuals, and I am absolutely pumped for that. We were talking about it a little bit earlier, but Team New Texas versus Team Inspire AD. On Team New Texas, you've got the Lone Star champion Diego De La Cruz. You've got a 4-time champion, Lone Star champion Max Heights. You've got the Wind Dragon Dustin Wynn. You've got the Rottweiler Jay Davis versus Inspire AD's team. Ethan Hunter, one of AAPW's top students in the last 5 to 10 years. Okay. Same with Houston Hendricks. I'd say you put both those two in the same category. You're more familiar with those two.
Yes.
But they have very bright futures in this career. Okay. Very the top prospects here in the state of Texas, along with Epidemius Jr., who's already doing things with AAA in Mexico, the largest Lucha Libre promotion in Mexico. And Kari J. Wright, again, we talk about some of the best in Dallas right now. Kari J. Wright's up at the very top of those talent. And Kari J. Wright's working to be one of the top talents in the state of Texas at this point in time as well. And then, speaking of Dallas, we've got MPX sending 2 of their best down to Pasadena. We got D. Tommy Becker, who's actually a former Lone Star champion here in New Texas.
Right.
Facing Tatum Manning, who's been one of MPX's cornerstones, if one of MPX's top guys. I'd say those 2 guys probably, when you think of MPX over the last 5 years, those 2 guys are the first 2 that come to your mind. So to see them 2 get to battle in front of a new crowd here in Pasadena, Texas is going to be incredible. I'm very excited about those 2 on our show. We haven't officially put the graphic out yet, but it was announced that the Contender Series Father O'Day, the Texas Contender Series champion, is putting his Texas Contender Series championship on the line against Just Nick, who won the Turbo Rumble on Thursday. And a first of this kind here at New Texas, not the first that's ever been done, but a throw in the towel match where Kenny Calypso will be in the corner of Just Nick and Sean Hendricks will be in the corner of Father O'Day. And the only way for that person to win the match is if the opponent's partner throws in the towel for that person. So a lot of stakes there. There's a lot of ego, a lot of story going into that matchup. I'm very, very excited about that. We talked about it a little bit earlier. United 210, King Rob Love, one of the best veterans on the Texas wrestling scene. He's been around for a very long time. He's done a lot of great things, not just here in Texas but around the country. He's won championships around the country, around the state. I used to tag with him. I know how good he is. And to face Casey Blackrose, one of the guys coming up from the San Antonio scene, from the hybrid wrestling school, it's really cool to see him grow and constantly. I see him, say things on social media like he wants to be the best, or he wants to, there's more for him to accomplish, and I really appreciate him putting those goals out into the world for him to try to accomplish. I'm really excited about that matchup. You got the young upstart versus the savvy veteran. So I think that's going to be really cool. Have you been out to a United 210?
I'm gonna go at the time of this recording. I'm gonna make an effort to go on the 21st.
Okay.
So, but anything goes. And seeing United 210 has been a great thing on social media. Yeah. So hopefully crossing fingers on the 21st when this releases. I'll come visit the show just to see how they're doing. And Sash has been very great with a lot of the talent that's been there over there, and with especially Brick being one of them. Yes. He's pretty much everywhere and seeing Epi and seeing all these guys. So it's nice to see up and coming and upstart promotions to see that too. So one of these days, if the stars align on the 21st, I'll drive by.
Make the trip down 35.
There you go. Exactly.
What else we got on this show? I mean, I just had one in my PWF.
Yeah.
One of our sister promotions that we work with, the Premier Arena, Premier Wrestling Federation. They've got Chris Carter wrestling Kane Carter for the Ascension Championship.
The Battle of the Carters. Too.
Battle of the Carters. Yes, Carter on Carter action. As people know, Chris Carter is one of the best high flyers in the state of Texas. Yeah. He's been around the game for a little while. He's done a lot of cool things in this business. And King Carter, a young upstart, he's very brash, very loud. He's kind of taken what he's wanted to here on the Texas wrestling scene. Right. So, he was here last year at Texas Indie Showcase 3. So to have King Carter back here at Texas Indie Showcase 4 is pretty cool. And that singles match should be, fireworks. I expect both of them to come out guns blazing for that matchup. And, the main event of the show,
That's going to be fun.
It was a credible matchup in Buda. There at pinballs. It's just an insane matchup between Steven and Hyon. And they get to run it back, but there's a little bit more stipulations on this matchup.
Okay.
If the Dream Team is to interfere in this matchup, Stephen Wolf is disqualified and Hyon will be awarded the championship. So no funny business from the Dream Team.
Okay.
New Texas Pro Tag Team Champions. I
was going to say, like, they have enough on their plate.
New Texas Pro Tag Team Champions, the Dream Team. They cannot interfere in this matchup, or Hyon will be awarded the New Texas Pro World Championship.
Wow.
But if Hyon is unsuccessful and she loses this matchup, she's not able to challenge Stephen Wolf again for the New Texas Pro World Championship. So there's some stakes on both sides. If Stephen's able to figure out a way to beat Hyon and win this, he doesn't have to worry about her coming after his championship anymore. But if the Dream Team do decide to get involved, in this match on next Sunday, then Hyon's a new champion.
There you go.
And, all that stuff that the Pack have been doing is going to come bite him in the ass, and we'll have a new world champion. A world champion that I would be very proud of, because I think that Hyon is, I don't even want to put a gender label on it or anything like that. I think she's just one of the absolute best wrestlers we have in the state at this time. So, it'd be incredible to have a women's world champion or a top champion here at New Texas Pro Wrestling. Okay. I think that would be important significance. But again, I think that it's just important to give people opportunities at the top of the card who are just the best wrestlers. And I think Hyon is, in that argument, if you want to, put, a top 3, top 5 list of wrestlers here in the state, I think she makes almost everybody's list, you know what I'm saying? And you could make an argument for her being number 1. So I'm super pumped about that match. They've always delivered when they've wrestled each other, whether it was last year when we debuted at the Campbell Hall for
Good.
Fistful of Dollars.
There you go.
Fistful of Dollars is the name of the show. They crushed it, went viral. I think they have a video on one of our Instagrams that has 10 million views from
Real? Okay.
Stephen Wolf hitting Cradle to the Grave, which is a hip toss into a tombstone pile driver, which is really cool. 10 million views on Instagram, which is really cool. And the match in Buda was incredible. You can make a case that Hyon was robbed that night and she should already be the champion.
Yeah.
And I think we'll figure out, I haven't even mentioned the fact that they're husband and wife. So we'll get to see who wears the pants and who
tensions are gonna flare.
Who wears the belt that holds those pants up in that relationship. So.
There you go.
Also, I'm not giving anything away, but there will be another huge surprise at the showcase, another return that I think a lot of people will be very excited about. That I'm not going to say anything, and I'd just be there.
You're just scratching the surface with that. You're just scratching the surface, but otherwise, this is the end of the episode, and. For those watching, thank you so much for sticking around and tuning for whoever is here for at this point of the conversation. Thank you so much, Kiefer, for having the time to talk about the Indie Showcase with you. And as always, thank you so much for watching and or listening. Be awesome with each other, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of the PGTK podcast. Bye, guys.